gets converted. Do you know why it gets converted? Because every newer firmware will have a different different syntax. Is this clear to all of you? Are you able to follow me? The reason to have these many interim upgrades is because your configuration needs to be converted because syntax keeps on changing on different firmware. Okay. If you directly jump on to 7.0.6, there is 99% chances your configuration will be corrupt. If you do not believe me, please go ahead and try this out on your production environment. Okay. I'm just joking. Please do not do that. Otherwise, you will blame me. Okay. Please never do this. I'm just joking. Okay. Never ever do an upgrade directly to the firmware that you want. Okay. Until unless you are going from 6.2.5 to 6.4.4. If that's the case, then yes, it's a direct upgrade. Okay. But if you're going for a higher version, then probably you need to go through all these internal upgrades. Okay. Why do we need that? Is this clear? Is this answer clear to all of you? Give me a yes or no in the chat box. Why do we go for an interim upgrades? This was an interview question, by the way. Okay. Because if I have multiple upgrades, what's the reason? What's the point of having those upgrades? Is this clear? Because the configuration is converted because the syntax is different on every firmware. All right. So that's why. Clear? Give me a yes or no in the chat box. Do you see this? Changes in the CLI. If you go into the release notes, changes in the CLI. All right. So see what happens is if there is any changes, it will show you over here. Changes in the default behavior. Okay. So if there is any default behavior changes, it will show up over here. This is the reason you go for every upgrade. Okay. So you make sure that your configuration is able to cope up with whatever the syntax changes has done. So it doesn't corrupt. It doesn't get corrupted. Okay. Now, supported upgrade parts done. Third, once everything with regards to release notes has been checked, the firmware needs to be downloaded from the customer portal. Okay, so you go to the support Fortigate site, you download the image, okay, and then you will be able to, download that and then upgrade. Now, do you want to do this, remotely or locally? See, it is always suggested that whenever you're doing an upgrade, even if you're doing it remotely, you should have somebody locally on the site. You should have someone, okay? Because if something goes wrong, okay, and you are unlucky for that day, okay, then there are chances that you need somebody over there. Okay, why do you need that? Again, because what happens is that, let's say for example, something broke, your firewall is not coming up. Okay, then you need to have a console access, right? So you need to have somebody over there locally. So always schedule your upgrade in a time where you can find somebody locally available. Okay, and then it will be able to help you. Finally, doing the upgrade. So downtime should be taken, of course, as a device for going for a reboot. And once a new firmware has been loaded, the question is how much time will it take for the entire process? So it says it depends on the number of patches there are to go through in order to reach the final firmware that is planned to upgrade. Also, it is advisable to get a longer time. So if the upgrade does not work out for the user as smoothly as planned, they will be have time to sort out the issue. If not, revert back to the previous one. Now, again, as I said, they are keeping it simple because it's basically applicable to everybody across the globe. Now, let me give you my 2 cents on this. See, let's say if you're taking this up, okay, you're on 6.2.5, right, and you're going for 706. Okay, what will happen is that Divyesh, the process is exactly the same in the HA as well. There's one small difference I'll tell you when you give me around 2 minutes. Okay. Okay, so once what will happen is that once you're upgrading from 6.2.5 to 6.4, do you know if you have 100 policies, 100 to 150 policies, Okay, static routes, firewall policies, inspection profiles on. It will take 3 minutes for the device to upgrade itself. If it is a standalone device, okay. If it is an HA device, 5 minutes. Okay. Now you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4 upgrades to go. How many? How much minutes? 20 minutes. Okay, give or take. Let's say 25 minutes. In all total, you need to have 25 minutes. Do you know how much time you need to take? Okay, give me an answer on the chat box. How much time do you think is appropriate for these many upgrades? Technically, it will take about 25 minutes if you have 100 to 150 policies. Okay. If you have 250 policies to 500 policies, 30 minutes. Okay. But do you know how much time will you ask from the client? You will ask 2 hours. Do you know why? It was mentioned in the article as well. Let's see, 30 minutes is purely your, upgradation. But I haven't accounted the human factor over here. Taking the firmware, uploading it, clicking on the upgrade option, then waiting it out, then again for an upgrade. I haven't taken this into consideration, right? So even by going through 4 internal upgrades, it will take you at least 45 minutes to 60 minutes. And why did I say 2 hours? Because you're just making sure that, see, you'll be free in 60 to 70 minutes, you'll be free. But the next amount of time is to verify the configuration. What happened? Is it all working correctly or not? You need time for that as well, right? So at least you need to have a 2 hour window over there to verify everything is working or not. Is this much clear to all of you? Give me a yes or no in the chat box. Now to answer Divyesh question, so firmware upgrade in the HA scenario. See, the HA scenario is also exactly similar. The only difference is in HA, what will happen is that the first thing that the firewall will do is upgrading the secondary device first. Is it clear? So if you have an HA, doesn't matter if it is an active or active passive. Okay, it will first of all upgrade the other device, secondary device, slave device. Once that device is upgraded, it will push the primary functionality on the slave device or the secondary device and then upgrade itself. Is it clear to you? So you have a primary, you have a secondary. First of all, secondary will be upgraded. Once the secondary is upgraded, primary features will be shifted to the secondary device. Now the secondary device is acting as a primary. Now the actual primary is going for an upgrade. Once that is also upgraded, then the primary will come back online. All right, that's how the HA upgradation happens. Clear, Devesh? Okay. Good. No problem. Okay, so next is how to take a backup of the Fortinet firewall configuration. Wow, that's pretty simple. How to take a backup, yeah. But what else can you tell? That's the question. So let me close this up. Close this up. Whichever close this up. Guys, you want this FGCP? Although what I've mentioned is already there, but if you want, I'll share this article with you all as well. If anybody of you are actually preparing, it's going to help you out. Okay, close this up. Okay. See, whenever we are going for a backup of the configuration, okay, the best thing is basically in the GUI, right? You click on the top right corner where you have the option of where you see your username, okay, whoever you have logged in from. Click on this, you'll get an option of configuration. Click on this, and then you got the option of backup. Okay, once you click on this, it will also ask you whether you want to back up on the USB or you want to back this up on your local device. Okay, yeah, there you go. Local PC or the USB. All right. So that's what the simple, straightforward answer is. This is a part of your know-how. Okay. It's pretty simple, straightforward as where exactly you go for a backup. Okay. Now, what else can you provide information over here? See, when you are taking a backup, right, you have an option to take a backup as a plain text format, or you can take it as a encrypted format as well. Okay. If the questionnaire or if the interviewer has just asked you how to take a backup, you can say, you go into the top right corner, click on the administrator profile, and then click on the configuration, click on the backup, and then you will be able to take the backup. That's a pretty simple, straightforward answer. But you can adding to it, you can say, plus you have the option, you have the feature where you can make sure that you are taking a backup in a encrypted manner as well. Okay. Why? Because once you are taking a configuration in encrypted manner, you're ensuring that nobody is able to read that configuration. Because if you're taking a configuration backup in a plain text, there are chances that anybody can read that. Okay. So if you're taking an encrypted format, nobody will be able to take a backup. And that's what the suggestion is or recommendation is. Whenever you say it is recommended, it is suggested, okay, in a way you're also telling the interviewer you know the best practices. Okay, so always make sure that you are going through this as well. Okay, next, what happens if the disk logging is disabled on the Fortigate unit? Well, the pretty simple straightforward answer is no logging will be allowed because the disk logging is disabled. But what else? What else? So if your disk logging is not enabled, okay, the first thing is you should always start off with saying it is always recommended, it is always suggested to have either a Syslog server configured. If not a Syslog server, then a 40 analyzer. If not a 40 analyzer, then at least a 40 manager. If not a 40 manager or analyzer, then a hard disk. Are you able to follow the chart, the flow chart? Syslog server. If not Syslog server, 40 analyzer or 40 manager. If not 40 analyzer or manager, then the hard disk. Okay. So if somebody says what will happen if the hard disk logging is not enabled? No problem. If your hard disk logging is not enabled, maybe you have a syslog server, maybe you have a 40 analyzer configured. Okay. So what is recommended? What is suggested? Your recommended or the best practices is to always have your syslog server configured, your 40 analyzer or 40 manager configured for your all your logging functionality. Okay, because it will make sure that your all your logs are getting saved. So if, for example, if I have to check the logs for the last 6 months, I can still do it. If I have to check the logs for the last 1 year, I can still do it. Okay, now see, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years back, this will only happen if you are in a financial institution and something happened a couple of months back and you have to check. Okay, in those kind of situations, or maybe you're a cybersecurity company. Okay, so so if you are in a techie part or if you're in a techie field, okay, there are chances you might have to recover logs from the last 1 year or maybe more than that. So if that's the case, you need to have a syslog server. You can't have this functionality with anything else. You can still make use of the hard disk. Absolutely, you can, but it is not recommended. You know why? If you are keeping your logs on the hard disk, not a problem, but with due course of the time, logs will basically cover up, you take up the whole of your space in the hard disk, and slowly it will hamper your performance of your Fortigate firewall. So it is always suggested not to keep it unless there is no other options. Is this much clear to all of you? Give me a yes or no in the chat box. The flow is you have to have a syslog server, 40 analyzer or a 40 manager, and then the hard disk. The recommendation is to have the syslog on the 40 analyzer. If nothing, then probably the hard disk. Is this clear? Give me a yes or no in chat box. Good. Salim, there's no specific vendor. You can have any vendor with the for Syslog. There's no because the what does Fortigate firewall do is, so the question is, let me repeat the question. So the question is, which vendor of Syslog server we can integrate the Fortigate firewall? Okay. See, there is the best thing over here is that your FortiGate firewall functions on something which is called as an open standard for syslog. Okay, for when it comes to syslog and when it comes to logging, it functions on the open standard. So any syslog server, okay, which functions on your your port UDP 514, okay, which is set for syslog servers, right? You can have any vendor out there. Okay, SolarWinds is one of the most used, but you can have any. There's no restriction as to it. Moving on. How to ensure only selected IP can log in? Ah, okay. What do you think? Give me a one-line answer. If anybody knows this, give me a one-line answer. How can I ensure only selected user can log into the firewall? If you know. Lovely. Correct. Yeah, the G. Correct. Yadvendra? Absolutely correct. Okay, so trusted host is something which would help you over here. What I mean is that, let's say, for example, your FortiGate firewall has a public IP. Okay, so if you have a public IP and on your interface, so anybody can log into that particular IP because if you have the HTTP and HTTPS enabled over there, anybody can log in, right? You do not want that. So what you do is you put an IP addresses over here, as in only 164.100.101 can log in. 164.100.1.7 can log in. So what will happen is, if let's say for example I'm coming from 212.153.173.191, it's a complicated address, but let's say I'm coming from there, I would still be not be able to. Even if I'm a legitimate user, I won't be able to log in. Okay. Now it doesn't mean that I have to have a public IP and then this will work. No, even if I have a private IP and I want only my specific users to log in, you can do that. Okay. Mention the IP address, or let's say, for example, as I said, let's say, for example, you have 5 PCs or 3 PCs from which you are allowed to log in. So what you do is you take those IP addresses from those 3 PCs or 5 PCs, and then you add it over here in the trusted host. Okay, what will happen is that you will be able to only log in from those IPs, nobody else. Okay, one more question. If it's a counter question, what happens is that when you start explaining a concept, interviewer always goes for a counter question. So all right, I have my trusted host configured, all right, but still I'm not able to log in. What will you do then? Okay, if you are having the right IP address there, still not able to log. So your admin says reachability. No, I'm getting the page. So I'm getting the page of the login and I'm trying to log in. I'm not able to log in. Okay. But I can see 192.168.13.100. Do you see this on the screen? Okay. So still not able to log in. User mismatch with the trusted host. Okay. Kapasandu says user mismatch with the trusted host. Okay. Browser is not supported. Wow, that's a very unexpected answer. Browser not supported. Okay. See, okay, I'll give you 30 seconds more. Guys, what do you think? My IP is mentioned over there, 192.168.13.100/22. I'm actually using the same IP address. Still not able to log in. What do you think? Okay, redox. All right. MAC address mismatch. No, MAC address does not matter. Ibrahim says SSH not around in the national interface. No, not required. I'm actually using WebGUI, so SSH does not matter. Salim says user account logged. Okay, good. So Divya says check for logs. Okay, see, this is the best thing if you're not really sure of what is happening. This is the best answer to give in an interview when you're not really sure what is happening, or when you are not sure what would be the right answer. Check the logs. I would probably run some logs. I'll probably run some commands to see what's the problem. I'll probably look for system events or user events to figure out what's the problem. Okay. No assumptions. Never ever make assumptions. As soon as you start making assumptions, okay, you'll fall into the category of what is the first thing when I started the session? Randomly trying something and see if it is working or not. Never ever give this vibe to the interviewer that you are just trying to figure out something. Okay, just throwing something, seeing if it works out or not. Always logical approach. Look for the logs. I'll probably look for logs. Whether so you always give two answers or three answers. Two answers to three, max three, and you feel the interviewer says no, that's not it. No, that's not it. Okay, so probably I'll look for the logs. I'll start looking for the logs and let's see what's the problem is. Do you know what the answer is? Should I share the answer? So if I have 192.168.13.100 and I'm still not able to log in, the problem is that once I'm actually getting the page of the Fortigate firewall, maybe through whatever device I'm coming, that device is changing the IP. So it is natting my traffic. So maybe by the time I reach my Fortigate firewall, okay, the IP is not 192.168.13.100, maybe it is 192.168.15.50. And this has happened with me a lot. This has happened to a lot of my students as well. Okay, so what happens is there are chances that if you have a wide setup, okay, spreading across different states, all right, and you're going through multiple devices, multiple firewalls, there are chances that your traffic may be netted. Okay, are you able to are you able to understand what I'm trying to say over here? Okay, there are chances that your IP can be netted. All right, how will you check this? How will you get to know that the IP is netted? Because see, you didn't had this in your mind that IP can also get changed, right? You didn't had this on your mind, right? But you are trying to figure out what can be the issue, what can be the issue. So the best answer is logs. Check the logs, because as soon as you go into system events, okay, you're looking for the events, it will show login failed, login failed, login failed, login failed. Okay, it will show your username and the password, and it will also show your source IP over there. As soon as it shows you the source IP, okay. It's showing an IP of 192.168.15.50. Oh, my IP is 13.100. Why is it coming on 15.50? So it looks like my IP is getting changed somewhere. So what you do, you get in touch with the network team and say, hey, you know what? When I'm trying to access this firewall, my IP is getting changed. Are you netting are you netting this traffic? 99.9% of the time, they'll say yes. The traffic is going through this particular location or that particular location or this device or that device, and we have to net this traffic. Okay, or let's say there was an activity on the weekend and we had to net this traffic. So what you do, you change your trusted host, or you ask your network team to can you make this as an exception. Okay, Salim, the get system session list will not work. Do you know why? Because the session is not yet there. And session list, first of all, is for the traffic which is going through the firewall, not to the firewall. Are you able to follow me this much? Session list is for the traffic which is going through the firewall, not to the firewall. So your management traffic, you will not see your management traffic on the session list. Is this clear? Sniffer packet, yes, that is also. That's fine, absolutely fine. You can take a sniffer packet as well. System logs will give you I mean, it will be quicker, but you can also use. I mean, it's an acceptable answer if you're using the sniffer packet. Clear, all of you? Trusted host, all of you clear? See how a simple, straightforward answer can be so much expanded, right? Do you see this? So this is what exactly the interviewer is also looking for. You know this, know how is fine. Simple yes or no answer is fine, but what else? Okay, so always start pretty simple, straightforward point shooter style answer. Okay, and if you're not sure of an answer, give 3 attempts. 2 attempts is fine, max 3 attempts. Still, if you're not having a right answer with you, or the interview says no, that's not the right answer, quickly jump into the log section. Okay, I'll check the logs. I'll look for the system events. I'll look for whatever the situation is. According to that, I'll check that log. Clear? Give me a yes on the chat box. Okay. Next is, what are the commands to be used for T-shoot? Okay, very important. Very, very, very important. There are certain commands which is like the backbone of troubleshooting. Okay. Fortigate T-shoot commands. Let me see if they have certain articles. Okay. No. Right. See, the best, and now again, this is my personal experience. Okay, I'm not saying that you should not follow this. I am saying that whenever, whatever kind of issues that you face, okay. See, end of the day, tell me if I'm wrong. Okay, end of the day, whenever there is an issue, 90% of the situation is either the user is not able to access a resource, okay, or the firewall is not able to connect to their servers, or FortiGuard, or not able to take updates, or those things. Do you think is there anything else apart from these two when it comes to the firewall? Either it's a connectivity issue. Okay, now connectivity issue can be expanded to so many things. I mean, you're scanning the traffic, and the inspection profile is not allowing you to connect, maybe because of the malicious content and all that. But then end of the day, it is coming again under the connectivity issue. So either it is a connectivity issue, or it is a management issue on the firewall. Most of your situations, 80 to 90% of your situations, come inside this two categories. Okay. So how do you figure out the problem? The first line of troubleshooting is always the packet sniffer. The first line of troubleshooting is always the packet sniffer. Why? Because when you are taking a packet sniffer, you are first of all ensuring that the traffic is actually reaching the firewall. Let's say, for example, let's say your user is complaining he is not able to access the internet, okay, and nobody is able to access the internet. It's a P1 situation, okay. Your network is down.